Hello, I'm Hansi Parchment. You're watching Talawa TV with Crystal Davis.
All right.
Check, yeah.
Yeah, everything good?
Yeah, man.
I want to ask you this important question, right?
Yeah.
As a Red Devil, I know you know where I'm going with this one. Who do you predict will have the better season, you or the club that you support, and what's your reasoning?
Why not the both of them?
You're sure about that?
Both of we can trust me, man.
Who to buy from the transfer window? You sure?
Yeah, who you support? Arsenal?
Then no must.
Well, London is ready in Manchester United.
But like that, what's your Premier League prediction? Where do you think you'll finish? Fifth. That's a humble. Okay, so back in Europe.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, I wish you the very best. Before you go though, I want to know your parish of birth because I feel like I know. I feel like we're from the same parish, but I don't want to get too excited.
Paul Bogle.
Paul Bogle. Okay, St. Thomas. All right, so you know, so you have to big up the people then from St. Thomas before you leave.
Everybody from Cedar Valley, man, and Content, Neskastle, the whole of St. Thomas.
So what we know of him and his position and his job, I don't know his JD, as in his is the job details of his role, but what we do know, I'm looking and I'm wondering, so if he does go on to becoming the assistant coach to Steve McLaren, who oversees the overseer? Because I think that's the number one that scratches many heads. Who's going to oversee Mr. Rudolph Speid, right? So as a JFF board director or board of director, Mr. Speid, it has been said on a number of occasions, reports, conversation within the Jamaica football community that Mr. Speid, as part of his JD, he is the one who hires, fires, and I should think if you're hiring and firing, you must be also the one that suspends and also supervise the staff where JFF is concerned. So if he becomes the national team assistant coach where the senior men's team is concerned, my question is, who is going to oversee him in that particular role? So that obviously creates a direct conflict of interest, blurring the lines of accountability. Now, it gets even more confusing, or potentially not so much confusing, but concerning when you're thinking of different areas. Another area for me to consider is the perception there, the perception of bias and player opportunities, because this is another thing that's been discussed across the community. So there is some concerns, whether it's growing concerns, but undoubtedly there is some concerns there that already exist about potential favoritism towards Cavalier players in the national team selection. So should Mr. Speid become the assistant coach for the senior men's national team, the Reggae Boyz, this perception, I should think, would intensify, right? So again, if it all materialize, will Cavalier player call-ups dramatically increase? Because if it does increase, then the argument to that is that it is undermining fair opportunity for all Jamaica Premier League players and fostering, significant distrust across the league. And I guess my biggest worry in all of this is the fair risk to player and player safety. And I think if what I've just said in regards to, Cavalier players coming into the national team, if any of that holds water, then surely such perceived favoritism, if widespread, carries severe risk. And I think this is the one that is of the highest concern for me. When players feel that their merit is overlooked due to bias or favoritism, then I think it's safe to say that it can breed some deep resentments and moral breakdown, whether that's just within the local football, or whether it then spreads over to the national team setup, whichever way you want to look at it. But it can create some layer of resentment, and as I said, subsequently lead into a moral breakdown. So this frustration, in my opinion, again, if everything comes to fruition, could escalate, and it could potentially lead to on-field confrontations, or maybe even worse. And worse is pretty dark, and I don't want to go there. Perhaps we can have this conversation and explore what that dark side could look like if what is being rumored materializes. So and if that does happen, then surely it puts us at a position where you are jeopardizing the game's integrity, and more importantly, the players' safety. And if all of that does come to fruition, and much of what I've discussed, especially the last point there where player safety is concerned, we might have to potentially brace ourselves for a potential intervention from FIFA, because systematic conflicts of interest and perceived unfair play can attract FIFA's attention. I think we're all certain of that. We all know that can happen. Not to say that it will happen, but it can happen, because FIFA has strict ethics. They have strict ethic codes. So persistent issues could potentially trigger your investigations, your sanctions, or worst case scenario, a suspension for the Jamaica Football Federation, which I'm sure we can all agree that would be devastating for Jamaican football. Be interesting to find out whether, if this does materialize and sanctions are being handed out because of the politics, conflicts of interest, if the Reggae Girls would then subsequently be caught up in all of that.